If you're somebody like me who likes to play online shooter games, sometimes we find ourselves in the situation where you are having that tight situation in that game and suddenly, for a reason or another, you have that one small latency delay. It's a fraction of a second and you get frustrated for that. Because of those situations, I wanted to build my home network from the ground up to make sure that whatever happens at my home network, I never actually face those situations in games. And in order to complete that, I have decided to build this network rack featuring only devices, should I say, best of the best for the price and also for the performance as well. Before we jump into these devices, what I have here, I just want to say a couple of things about this network rack here. Basically, this is just a 10-inch network cabinet. 10-inch stands for the width for these rails over here. This is a 6U version of it. 6U stands for 6 units, and units is basically one device in this kind of size, so I can fit 6 these kind of devices into this rack. There are also a couple of other versions as well, for example 4U, 4 units and 10 units as well. I'm not actually a huge fan of this network cabinet, to be honest, because for example I cannot take this side panel off unless I unscrewed screws for at least like 3 different sides. And the problem is that once you put this thing on the wall, you cannot take this side panel off unless you take the whole cabinet down on the floor and then start tinkering around it. Something kind of annoying, especially for us PC gamers who are actually get used to that we can open our PC cases without actually using tools in the first place. The first device I have here, I actually have printed 3D print mounts for this rack because all these mounts are actually custom made. And for that I want to thank community at theprintables.com. You can find all these links in the description of this video, so all credits goes to those skillful people at printables.com. The first device here is Ubiquiti or UniFi Cloud Gateway Fiber, and what's special about this thing is that it supports up to 10 gig internet connection or WAN connection, something very special. And not only that, but it has a 4 RG45 2.5 gig ports, where one of them is PoE plus port, which means that you can also power access point out of it. And it also has 3 different 10 gig ports, where 2 of them are SFP ports and 1 of them is RG45. What's also nice about this router or firewall, if you will, is that we can configure any of these ports to be our WAN or internet connection port. So for example, if our internet connection is slower than 2.5 gig, we can simply use one of these ports and reuse these 10 gig ports, for example, connecting our PC, NAS or something else. On the other side of this device, we have a small screen, which is probably a gimmick on some degree, where you can see just some kind of basic events, what this thing is doing. At certain situations, you can kind of check whether your internet connection is on or off. And on the side, this thing also includes an NVMe slot, for example, if you want to connect those IP cameras and save the video data on that drive. The next thing here, we have 1 row patch panel, which is basically just a female-female connector. Here I wanted to have this patch panel for the convenience more, because I'm gonna connect the cables coming from the patch panel of my home to this one and then reconnect the ports to whatever device I decide to use. This is just for the convenience, because I can, for example, connect like room number 5 to whatever port instead of pulling those long cables and trying to kind of fit them in and have them all that sorted out properly, because it can get messy once you start having a lot of those cables. Somebody who works in networking definitely knows what I'm talking about. The next thing here is also 3D printed grill to kind of help the air movement above the next device in question, because this next device tend to heat a bit, so I just wanted to have a little bit room for it so the air can move. And the next device in question is Ubiquiti Switch XG Pro 8 PoE. I hope I remember that model. This thing supports up to 10 ports of 10 gig speed, and out of those 10 ports it has a 8 Ethernet RJ45 ports supporting 10 gig connection, but not only that, it also supports PoE, so I can connect 8 different access points to this thing and power them straight from this switch. Something really amazing. And what I've done here is basically I have used the DAC cable with SFP ports to connect my router to the switch, just to save these RJ45 ports for something else. And this thing is a total beast in terms of performance as well. I mean, switching capacity of this beast is 200 gigabits per second. For home use, an absolute overkill, but nevertheless I wanted to basically build something like best of the best to make sure that I have a solid network for years to come. Also, what I like about this thing is that it's completely silent. This switch here definitely has an internal fan here. I'm not entirely sure how loud it can get once you are actually stressing this thing with all the traffic in the world you can put into it, but at least now when it's idling I cannot hear anything, and as you can notice here out of my voice and everything that there is no any kind of humming noise coming out of this thing, and it is definitely very silent, so I could basically keep this in even in my bedroom when it comes to noise levels. And also probably the most important feature of this switch is an RGB lights, because we are able to change the colors of those RGB lights, for example depending on different profiles, what kind of speeds these ports are actually handling. Definitely useful feature for us gamers. And the next thing here, I have just this basically metal shelf here to leave some stuff once I'm doing some kind of maintenance, USB sticks, screwdrivers, or even if I decide to install a tiny PC or maybe 2 of them here, I can just simply put them here and connect to whatever port I want, and everything will be kind of nice in this cabinet instead of lying stuff around it. And the next thing here, we have a 3D print Philips Hue Bridge Pro, which is for smart lights, of course, and I have connected it with the Ethernet cable, but of course it supports wireless network as well, so I can use that in case I want to have this port for something else. And at the very bottom we have just basic power strip with 4 ports. I have decided to use it instead of need to connect every single device outside this cabinet. And also I have replaced the original cables with the third-party shorter versions, just to avoid having those piles of cable at the bottom of this rack. This thing also has this glass door, so I can lock it down in case I'm afraid that somebody will actually be touching those cables, but in that case I think I will have a bigger problem if somebody would do so. Gladly this thing is gonna stay in a safe place away from the kids and everyone else, so I don't need to even have this thing. Maybe I'll take it off just to have a better air movement in this thing in case these devices tend to heat. In my next video we'll be talking about another side of my home network, which is access points and wireless network in general. I'll share some thoughts and things I have decided to do with them, and if you're interested, hopefully you'll stick around. My name is Leo and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.